help you.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Felixstowe 5.0. Now, as you know, our last programme we were talking with Phil Kemp, a crime reduction officer for Felixstowe and surrounding areas. And as you remember, we were talking about burglaries at this time of year, a really worrying thing. Christmas is such a wonderful time, but you have to be aware that it's also a time when there are possibly more burglaries in the area. And so we thought it would be really helpful to discuss it and to see what we could do. Now, Phil suggested that having a burglar alarm would be really helpful. So I've invited Daryl Foreman from Anglian Security to come in and talk to us about burglar alarms, because I don't know about you, I find them very worrying. They seem an awfully big thing to have fitted in your house and something you have to work out and be careful how you use them. So I've invited Daryl in to see if he can just put all these fears to one side and actually tell us what a burglar alarm means. So welcome, Daryl. Thank you very much for coming.
No problem. Nice to see you.
Thank you. And you've brought with you various bits of equipment. Now, I'm a real novice regarding a burglar alarm. I've worked them. I've never had one. And I've had all sorts of problems with them. I know it's a few years ago, but one, I've got a quite nice house. Right. I've had it all decorated.
Okay.
Now, if you come in and install things, is that going to cause a lot of mess? Is that going to cause me, do I have to be aware of
Not at all.
Problems?
In recent years, they've moved over to a wireless technology, the security manufacturers. So whereas years ago you might have to have floorboards pulled up and or sort of carpets, with the wireless technology, the disruption is really kept to a minimum.
Oh.
Okay, so there's no cables to be run in.
Oh, really?
We design a system around your property, and as I say, the disruption is really kept to a minimum.
Oh, right. So you put things on walls, or?
Yeah, we've got a movement sensor here. I don't know if you can see this, but this is a sensor that would go into the corner of a room.
Oh,
okay.
This way up.
Yep. So it's 90 degrees. So it would just sit in the corner of a room, and it then covers that room, i.e., one in your dining room, one in your kitchen. But the advantage, as I say, of the wireless technology is that is it. You know, there are no cables to be concealed, so it's effectively job done.
And that's very neat.
It's quite neat. It's not too not too in your face, if you like. So and it does the job. Yeah, absolutely.
So it covers quite a wide area.
90-degree range. So
wow.
Absolutely. Yep. And worth pointing out at this stage, a lot of people are under the misconception that you cannot have an alarm system if you've got pets. I don't know, again, if you can see this little sort of, this is a lens cover, which would sit inside the unit. So if you do have sort of cats or small to medium-sized dogs, you can have an alarm system and still, not have to worry about keeping the pet into a certain area or putting the cats out with the alarm system being armed.
I have to tell you, my friend had, a good few years ago, she had a burglar alarm system and asked me to keep an eye on her house, and her cat set the alarm off.
She needed the pet sensors. Perhaps that was pre-pet tolerant sensors.
I'm sure it was. It was a good few years ago. So things have really moved on.
Have definitely moved on within the last few years, absolutely, yeah.
Wow. And how long would it take to... do you do a whole house? I mean, what does it mean when you say a burglar alarm?
Well,
what do you do? Do you do every room?
Not necessarily. You're looking to cover the main rooms on the ground floor. But you would almost certainly need to have a surveyor like myself come out and sort of assess the property. If you've got a flat roof, for example, then we may need to put one of these sensors typically on the landing or in the master bedroom. So each system is designed around the property.
Right.
But again, with the wireless technology, it's very rare are you there any more than sort of half a day to a day to install the system.
Oh, it doesn't take very long then?
Very minimal disruptions, as I said.
Oh, no, that's really good. And also, I mean, years ago they used to say that you had to be careful who came in to put in a burglar alarm, because if they weren't the right people, you know, they would know how your systems work. Why would I use you?
Well, we're an approved installer. We belong to a sort of a governing body called the NSI, the National Security Inspectorate. We are a gold systems installer. There are very, very stringent rules and regulations around our industry. We have to security screen an individual's, I think it's last 5 years' history, to make sure that they've not been convicted or they're not working for us for illicit gain. And that's the engineering staff, that's the office staff, because obviously they've got access to confidential information. So we really have to, again, in line with Suffolk Police, we need to do a background check, make sure there's not been any convictions. So, as I say, the security screening of employees is very strict, providing you use an approved installer, which we are.
I was going to say, and if you're an approved installer, what again should you look for?
Well, really, customers or homeowners should be looking for the NSI Gold logo. There are other governing bodies out there as well that will provide the same sort of security, really, when choosing an installer.
So what do you have to do to get that logo then? You've got the logo, but I presume you have to go through some sorts of checks to get it?
Yeah, we get inspected every 6 months. So we've actually got our next inspection on January the 6th, I think. So a quality auditor will come in. He'll spend a day in the office, make sure that we're doing things correctly and to UCAS standard, which we are. And then 6 months down the line, he'll go out to some sites, a bit like an Ofsted inspection, really. They'll sort of turn up unannounced, and they'll make sure that we are fitting systems to the correct standard.
So that's a system thing, which is brilliant.
Yep.
What about the security thing? Who vets you? What is the body?
Well, it is the NSI.
NSI.
That is the governing body. Those are the people that we're ultimately responsible to.
Right.
So they make sure that we're doing everything by the book. It sort of segregates us because, to be honest, with the wireless systems, some of the DIY devices, if you want, anybody could fit it within reason, you know. But what separates us a little bit from these DIY systems, and there is a market for DIY systems, don't get me wrong, but what separates us from the sort of DIY side of it is that we are an NSI Gold company, and that's something we're very proud of. You know, we've been in business for 32 years. It allows us to also fit systems that are connected up through to monitoring stations, and ultimately you can have police response. We're approved by the insurance companies. Well, neither of those things would apply were we not an NSI Gold company.
Right,
okay.
So you'd feel safe with you.
Absolutely.
I would say people that live alone would want to, well, anybody, you want to feel safe with the company that you've used.
Yep.
So this would go outside your house, would it?
That's probably the most important component of the system. That's the external siren. So, you know, you'd see it up high underneath the roof line of a house.
Yes.
You've got flashing LEDs on it all the time.
Oh, has it? Oh.
And we typically would put another box around the back, and it's all about trying to deter somebody from breaking into the premises in the first place.
Well, I remember when these were always going off.
Yep.
And nobody took any notice. So why is that any different?
Well, first of all, you want to try to eliminate the false alarms. So again, by having a professional outfit install the system, then you're hoping to reduce the number of potential false alarms that you may have. That's a very good argument. Lots of people ask me, you know, they sort of equate intruder alarms to car alarms. Nobody pays any attention. You know, if the alarm goes off, my neighbours aren't interested. That's right. Which is a valid point, but you know, first of all, with that visual deterrent, you would hope that nobody's going to break in the first place. And if you speak to Suffolk Police, I think statistically, homeowners are much less likely to be broken into with an alarm system than without. And hence I'm here today. But if somebody still does choose to break in, you know, that external siren makes a very loud noise outside, flashing lights. It makes a very loud noise inside, and regardless, you know, what your neighbours may or may not do, these people inside your property don't want to hang around. No, they don't know that you've just come in through the front door, or
Right.
that the police haven't been contacted.
And that
Alright.
somebody's.
They want as little sort
Yes.
of attention drawn as possible.
Right. No, that's really sensible. So do they go off like they used to, or does that?
No, I mean, I'm not going to say you may not get the odd false alarm, but again, maintenance is a very important factor.
Right.
With the wireless systems, batteries in these various devices do need to be replaced once a year. You know, it's a bit like having a boiler. You would expect to have that serviced every year.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
You should have somebody in once a year.
You should do really to make sure it's working okay and that
yes.
everything's functioning as it should be, you know.
And my other problem, and I have to say, I lead a busy life. It's my excuse.
Okay.
You've got all these numbers to remember. You've got to plug in. I used to work in a place where I set the alarm, and it used to be fraught because you'd have numbers to put in. Then I'd rush out the door in case I set the alarm off, and it's quite a fraught thing. How does that work?
Well, again, you know, you're absolutely right. Historically, people sort of they come home, they open their door, they start the entry tone. They've got sort of 20 seconds. What's the number? Where's the panel?
The panic.
You know, particularly if you're looking after a property for somebody, it can be. You know, people can be anxious about setting and unsetting a system. Again, another real leap forward with the wireless technology is that most people these days tend to use these remote key fobs. I don't know whether you can see that.
Oh,
So it's a bit
that's
like a
simple.
yeah, it's a bit like a car.
Can you see that?
So whilst you've still got the 4-digit code as a backup,
Right.
that key fob means that it's very rare that you'll ever access the control equipment. You'll literally leave the premises, press the lock button to arm the system, and then when you come home, you can actually deactivate the system before you even go in.
Wonderful for me, but it brings up the thought that if it was that simple, wouldn't that be easy for a burglar?
If they got hold of your key fob.
Is it specific?
That key fob is specific to the system. The only slight security issue there is if you had your handbag stolen, let's say, with your key fob in it, with a front door key and some sort of form of identification, your address, then you've got a problem. But you would literally go home, you're going to contact the locksmith anyway to change your locks, and at the same time you would phone us, talk to one of our engineers, and they would talk you through deleting the key fob that had been lost or stolen.
Oh, it's very similar to losing your credit card or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it just gets deactivated by one of our engineers, that's
But
right.
that's fantastic. So you just press lock and you
Yeah.
just press unlock.
You absolutely do, yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's so much easier.
It is,
And
yeah.
and yes, so you can put it on with your keys so you won't lose it.
No, absolutely.
What if you lose it? You can't get in.
Well, we've got the main panel here. I don't know if you can see this as well. So
Right.
everything we've looked at so far, the external siren, the sensor, the key fobs, they all talk to this unit wirelessly. Okay, so that is the main
Can you
panel.
hold that up? Now I recognise this.
Right, okay,
Yes.
so that's probably what you're talking
Yes.
about. You know, you've got 20 seconds, what's the
Yes.
code?
Yes.
But you would still have a 4-digit code as a backup. So if you've come home and the fob hasn't worked,
Yes.
the battery's sort of starting to run low,
Yes.
you've still got sufficient time to come in, punch in a 4-digit code to turn the system off.
Oh, so you've always got a backup.
Absolutely, and it's, you know, this can be
Yes.
tucked away in a cupboard under a stairs.
Yeah.
You know, some people are worried about the aesthetics; they don't want it in their hallway. So this can go out of the way because it's very, very rare you'll use the keypad, because what you'll actually do 99% of the time is you'll just turn the alarm on and you'll turn the alarm system off.
It brings a question, which is fabulous,
Yeah.
so much easier. But what would you point that at?
It's not like a car where you have to be stood in front of it,
No.
you know, setting it and unsetting it. More and more break-ins seem to be occurring over night time, which is, you know, particularly distressing if the homeowner's sort of in bed. You can turn the alarm system off and on from your bed. You know, so you could be upstairs, you could have this fob by the bed, and over night time, the last person to sort of turn in presses the button and sets the system over night time. So you don't have to be stood right in front of it.
Oh, so you can go up to bed,
Yeah.
but you'll be
The panel's
alarmed downstairs?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I
Yep.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought you couldn't be alarmed if you were indoors.
No, it's very simple. Again, going back to my flat roof scenario, if you've got a sensor upstairs, well, that needs to be off, because otherwise every time you need to use the bathroom, or if you've got guests, it's going to trigger. Well, again, the advantage of the fob is you press a button and you can part set it, so that part set automatically would switch off any sensors upstairs.
Oh, wow.
All right, so it makes life very, very easy for the users, and that's the idea behind it, really.
Well, it is, because you can get very busy and you just don't need all the... But, okay, so what if you triggered the alarm by accident? Because
Well,
these things
yeah,
happen.
that
How do you turn it off?
Yeah, it does happen, you're absolutely right. Typically it's in the morning, you know, you've set the alarm, you've come downstairs, you've forgot to switch.
Yeah.
So, not a problem. Again, with the fob or with the code, you simply switch it off and then you reset it.
So you either go back for that,
Yeah,
or you go down and
yeah,
you turn that off.
and you turn it off. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so that's fine. And the other thing is, when they used to go off a lot, they went on and on and on. How long? And you can get into trouble.
It can be a noise pollution issue.
Yes.
And again, we're sort of talking about systems where they're perhaps not necessarily being maintained. In the event of a sort of power cut, if the batteries aren't healthy, it could create a problem. New modern systems, they have to cut off after 15 minutes. Otherwise, it does become a noise pollution issue, and councils can get involved. So this system here, for example, if you did have a false alarm when you were away, it would automatically cut off after 15 minutes.
So the big question is this going to cost me my life savings to install?
I don't know how your life savings look like, but this.
But is it really expensive?
They're not. Again,
No.
I think because the labour has been reduced so much, that is reflected in the cost of these systems. But it's a difficult thing to put a cost on, sort of.
I don't think I think that would be really unfair, don't you, to ask an exact cost, because I presume you will go into a house and you would assess it. But I suppose that's just a very rough idea of whether this is an affordable item to have.
Yeah.
Can you give me an analogy? Like it?
Yeah,
Did
I
I
mean,
see somewhere it will cost the same as a new front door or something?
well,
like
that's
that?
always something that we sort of refer to. You know, if you imagine the cost, the cost of sort of replacing a damaged door or trying to repair a door following an attempted break-in, which is quite common. I dare say you could get a very simple system for sort of less than that. They really have come down in price.
Right.
Yep.
So you get what you pay for, in as much as if you want a more intricate system, bigger system.
Absolutely, they're scalable.
Yes.
You know, yeah, you can have anything from 1 or 2 sensors right up to sort of 20 to 30 sensors at a much bigger property. Yep.
So you will come round, assess, and then give the price.
Absolutely,
there and then.
that's correct. Yeah.
Oh, see, that sounds great. Now, I'm presuming at the moment it's just an alarm system, meaning it's you know, you get the noise and the lights.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. Can you have a system that goes to a police station or to a call centre or something?
They're called alarm receiving centres. The systems these days are no longer connected directly through to the police. Well, in fact, it's worth pointing out that this panel here, in fact, the system in its most basic form has got a modem built into it. So if we get a cable from the main panel to a phone point and you are out and the alarm triggers, it's got the capability of sending a message to 4 different mobile phones.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so that's already built in. And then you can start to increase the security. And we look at things like Red Care, which is where systems are monitored and can result in police response should you need to. And again, that's where the accreditation comes in, because you can only offer that sort of that option if you are an approved installer and you're using approved equipment, which we do.
And is it, do you get a guarantee with the system?
Yeah, everything's covered for a year, as you would expect. So a year on all parts and all labour, and then we just sort of write to the homeowners every 12 months, putting the onus on them really to contact us for a routine service. You know, it's an outright purchase. We're not talking thousands and thousands. You know, it's hundreds as opposed to thousands of pounds, and the equipment belongs to them. You know, and that's really it.
And you know what? You can't put a price on sentimental items that might get stolen, and you can't put a price on some of your precious bits and pieces at all.
No, you
So actually, that's quite heartening. I didn't realise it was that sort of price range.
Well, you're right. You know, the insurance company covers the sort of the financial loss. You know, they'll cover your iPads and your jewellery and things like that. But it's the not only is it the sentimental items that may have no value to anyone else, but it's also trying to prevent somebody breaking in the first place, because it's some people can't cope. You know, I've known individuals that have been broken into, they've had an alarm fitted, but they've still moved because they just can't get over the fact that an individual or individuals have been, unfortunately, rummaging through their personal possessions.
Your home is your castle.
Absolutely.
Until somebody's broken into it, you don't realise just how
No,
awful that feels.
absolutely.
No, that is so helpful. One more question,
Sure.
if I can. I've gone and lost my fob. I've forgotten my number.
There's no hope,
No,
I'm afraid.
there's no hope for me at all. Do you have anyone I can phone? Are you accessible to contact?
Yes.
As a company,
Yeah.
you know.
Again, us personally, we have 11 engineers. They're very local to Ipswich, and we have to offer you a 4-hour response. That is, again, part of our accreditation.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really... No,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's really good. So you've always got somewhere you can ring.
Could be
and-
2 o'clock Christmas morning if you wanted. We'd have to get an engineer out.
Really?
We obviously encourage you not to do that, but
I'm sure
we
that
have to offer that service anyway.
But
Yeah.
so, just from my peace of mind, I know that if all else fails, I can't get in, or I've done something,
Yep.
blah, blah, I can contact
Always
you.
somebody local at the end of the phone.
Yes.
That's right. Yep.
Does that mean I have to have a contract with you to do that?
Not for the first year, but obviously this does bring into the maintenance side. For the 12 monthly inspection, not only are you having a chap or a person on site to make sure it's working and change the batteries, but you are retaining that level of service for the next 12 months. So it does allow you to then pick up the phone, as I say, 24 hours a day if you need support over the phone.
Oh, so I can then take out a contract.
It's part
with
of the
you.
maintenance, yeah.
Yeah, so is that very expensive?
It's about £60 to £65 per annum, so that's
And that includes it being looked at every year.
That's absolutely
and
right, yeah. And that wouldn't be due initially. That's, as I say,
That's half.
that's 12 months on, yeah.
So for peace of mind, that's not bad actually.
No, it's just over
Yeah.
£1 a week, so.
Well, I think that's pretty good. I think that's really good. You've made me think now.
Okay, good. I'll leave you a card then. You can-
Yes, please leave me
Okay.
a card. Well, thank you
That's
very
all right, no,
much, Darryl.
not a
Thank
problem.
you for
Welcome.
coming.
Okay.
I hope you found that as interesting as I did. I thought that was quite amazing, actually. I don't know very much about burglar alarms. I know an awful lot more now. And if you need to know anything, I'm sure, Darryl, that you can be contacted.
Indeed, absolutely.
Yes. So that's Anglian Security, a nice local company here for Felixstowe and surrounding areas. So I'm sure we'll put a number up at the end if you want to contact Darryl and you've got any questions. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you found that as interesting as I did. Goodbye for now.